Okay, so this is Shawshank Redemption for leadership 4564. I just want to start off by saying that I really enjoyed this movie. I think it was great how the entire movie, you judged Andy because you honestly thought that he was the one that murdered his wife and her lover, but in the end you find out that he was telling the truth. So it did tell you a lot about the person, and it made you have a whole new perspective on the movie. So with that, I'll get started on the laws, on Maxwell's law. And the first one is law of empowerment, and this states that secure leaders give more power to others. And I feel like leaders definitely violate this by putting others down because they feel threatened, whether it be job security or, scared to change certain things or just being self-conscious of some of themselves. Um, I feel like I actually see this a lot in people that think they're leaders, but they really aren't. It sounds kind of bad, but in my job, my manager definitely, does this, and she thinks she's a leader, but she's not. So it's just funny how if there's no empowerment, that like Maxwell said, barriers are created that followers cannot overcome. And I feel like Andy empowered many to become better versions of themselves. For example, the men getting their diplomas. He saw an opportunity with the library, and they all saw that he was an educated man, so he took the initiative, to help them get their diplomas, and by that, he empowered them. And I think that was a big thing, especially with, I forget who he was, but the character that kind of looked like Elvis. He definitely empowered him to do the right thing and to change his life, because before he was always robbing things, and then you find out through the narration that he actually has a wife and a child. So he wanted to better himself for them, and he did that by getting his high school diploma and, really starting to change his life. The next law is the law of picture, and that is basically people do what people see, and followers are always watching what you do. And like I said, Andy was very intelligent, so he inspired others to improve themselves. And I actually think now, like looking back on it, that because you didn't find out that he was innocent until close to the end, that you have a whole new perspective on the movie. Like everything he did, he actually, when he said he was innocent, he was telling the truth. It wasn't just like, oh, everyone says that or everyone's innocent here, like Red did in the film, but he really wasn't innocent, and you could actually tell by his actions. Like he didn't really act like the others because he was innocent, and he took pride in it, and he just, didn't stay out of trouble and did his own thing. And I feel like he also showed great determination and turned heads by doing this. For example, he sent letters, every week and then twice a week to the Senate, and they ended up giving him cash and giving him books for the library and just setting up the library and making it, his own. I think that really showed a lot from him, and I think a lot of people learned from that. And also his rock collection. It was something very simple, but because he took all the time to do it, I feel like they looked up to him because of that, and they even helped him, find rocks. As an example, when he was put in like whatever that one room by himself, I forget what it was called, but they found all those rocks for him because they respected him. And because of what he did, they respected him, and he was a great leader because of his actions. So I think that's definitely important. One thing is don't talk the talk if you can't walk the walk, and I definitely believe that. You can't be a hypocrite and, be a leader at the same time. So I definitely think you need to do what you say you're going to do. All right, the next law is the law of buy-in. And basically this states that people buy into the leader first, and then they buy into the vision. If they don't buy into the leader, then they won't buy into the vision. You have to like the leader in order to agree with their message and go along with what they want to accomplish. Like I said, followers first follow the leader, then they get on board with the leader's vision. And Andy was a good man and carried himself very well. For example, the first thing that Morgan Freeman said was he immediately liked him in the film. Morgan Freeman played Red. And, the first couple months he just stayed to himself and didn't start any trouble. And he stood up for men who were murdered and brought down the corruption in the jail. You saw that in the end when he had this whole scheme planned, and he got the warden in trouble and all the guards that committed murder. And I believe that was, his vision after being in jail and going through all this, that's what he wanted to accomplish. And they were definitely on board with him. I mean, it was kind of hard because they were in jail, so there's not much they really could do, but he was took care of himself so well that he was able to accomplish this. And then it also ties into the next law that I'll get to in a minute. And another thing I saw towards the end was that Morgan Freeman followed Andy's vision and trusted him with his life. For example, when he went to the tree and to the field to get the volcanic black rock, that showed a lot that he trusted him and that he saw him as a leader and followed his vision. And I think that was probably like the biggest example of that in the film, because you actually saw, Red from the beginning to the end through like Andy's time in jail. And the next law is law of victory, and that is leaders always find a way to win. And Andy was never going to let the warden and the guards win. He always kind of tested them doing these little tricks, like doing the closing the door and putting on the intercom so that the music played. And when he would say the wrong thing, then he'd be put in, confinement even longer. And so he, like, throughout the film, he definitely fought with them, but he earned enough trust to be able to fool them. They thought they had him, on a leash, so he wouldn't do anything. And in the end, they found out that was completely wrong. And so I definitely believe Andy was a great leader because he knew he was going to win. He prepared everything up as if he was going to win, and he did ultimately. And I thought that was a great, story and definitely a great view of leadership. Alright, now on to Shankman's emotionally intelligent leadership. The first part he talked about was initiative, which is just finding opportunities. And throughout the film, Andy always had initiative. He was always thinking of the next move. For the example, the poster that he asked for Red, that hid the hole that he climbed through, and he had everything prepared. Just like the rock hammer, that I honestly don't think in the beginning he thought that would be used to dig his way out, but once it showed at the end he was writing his name and the rock just fell, he took that opportunity to get out, because I feel like I would do the same thing if I knew I was innocent and no one would listen to me. And then also when he was setting up all the money and the scheming for the warden, he knew all that information to get that money back after he knew he was going to escape. So he always had the initiative to find those opportunities to escape and to basically have justice. And the next emotionally intelligent leadership trait is definitely being consciousness of others. I remember in my other leadership classes it talks about being conscious of yourself. But it's definitely just as important to be consciousness of others. That's aware of the relationship with others and the role they play. And I definitely believe Andy was aware of the relationship with guards. He was able to use them to his advantage, whether it be locking them in the bathroom or giving them advice on their taxes, so that he kind of had like an edge over them, like he was, in with them, so he would be able to get the things he needed. And then also he was aware of like the relationship he had with the warden, so he was able to, launder the money. And definitely with Red, he was the guy that could get things, so he was aware of his relationship and how close he became with Red. But in contrast with the guards and the warden, he kind of faked a role with them, I guess you could say, and then he took advantage of them in the end because of all the horrible things they had done, so he wanted justice. And the last two are empathy and citizenship. Empathy is basically understanding others from their perspective. And I feel like Andy did this with many, especially one of the first things I saw is in the very beginning when the first night after the chubby guy was murdered from crying. He, asked his name and like really, I feel like he really empathized with him. And he just, I don't know, he just never got angry or lost his temper in many situations. Like he was always calm. Even when he was, fighting with the guards, he always like controlled himself. It's hard to explain like a exact scene of when that happened because you would kind of just feel it throughout the entire movie. He was just in control of his his issues, and I feel like I would be angry the entire time if I was in jail and I didn't do it. So he definitely controlled himself and didn't let that stop him from, ultimately accomplishing what he wanted to do. And citizenship is recognizing and fulfilling your responsibility for others. I feel like the best thing with this is that Red showed great citizenship as well, because he just like fulfilled his responsibility, whether it was like helping Andy, or like getting things that people needed. Like I feel like he was really in tune with it. And then Andy, of course, did this when he took on responsibility with the library, and he helped everyone, organize it, and he just took like full responsibility of it. So overall, I just think Andy was a great leader in this film, and it's funny, like I said in the beginning, it's really funny because it was hard because I'm like, oh, they're in jail, so how can there be like a good leader here? But then after I found out that Andy was innocent, it kind of like gave a whole new perspective on it. I mean, they kind of thought throughout the film that he was innocent, but then when it actually showed it at the end, it was definitely like a fact he was innocent, so it definitely gave me a whole new outlook on the film.